That is selection by the law of the survival of the fit to survive. The victor in this struggle, this competition for life, might or might not be a plant more beautiful or more useful to man. It would only be the plant which had succeeded in adapting itself for its own benefit. I availed myself of this natural process, this law, in making my selections. Only instead of selecting by means of deadly environmental competition, I selected with a knife, or a hoe, or a spade and a bonfire. Hugo de Vries, the great Dutch botanist, was very much interested in this wholesale method of mine, and in a book which he wrote on his theory of mutation, he commented on it in these words. One very illustrative example of Luther Burbank's methods must suffice to convey an idea of the work necessary to produce a new race of superlative excellency. 40,000 blackberry and raspberry hybrids were produced and grown until the fruit matured. Then, from the whole lot, a single variety was chosen as the best. It is now known under the name of paradox. All others were uprooted with their crop of ripening berries, heaped up into a pile 12 feet wide, 14 feet high, and 22 feet long, and burned. Nothing remains of that expensive and lengthy experiment except the one parent plant of the new variety. The second step, selection, is taken at different stages in the development of the plant, depending on what I am seeking to attain. There is nothing like this sort of selection, as practiced by the plant developer, in any other line of work I can call to mind. Breeders of fine animals, horses and cows and swine and sheep and so on, come to the nearest to it. But they are looking for one or two qualities, whereas I must look for many, and must stay with it until I get them. The horseman wants strength or speed, or a high-headed horse, or a slow horse, or a gaited horse. The cattle breeder may want a big milker, or a big cream producer, or a big beef strain, and that is about all he can expect to achieve. But I start by wanting good form, size, spread of leaves or branches, and general appearance and sturdiness in all my plants, whether an amaryllis or a walnut tree. After that, I may want a heavy bearer, or a bearer of a few large blossoms. I may want fragrance, or may want color. I may want a thin-skinned fruit, or a fine cooking fruit, or a good shipper or keeper. I have almost limitless needs in my work, and some plants have to be taught or trained or bred to give me one simple new characteristic, and others to give me a dozen. So you can see that I have to select and reselect again. We must not overlook here another sort of selection that goes on before and after the selection, as between 2,000 individual plants or trees for the sake of getting a desired variety. This perpetual selection, this watchfulness and caution and care in seeing and acting on the difference between grades or qualities, begins in many cases with the seed, when one must sift the chaff from the wheat, the even, well-developed kernels from the irregular or faulty, those that are too small or too large, those that are scarred or bruised, and so on. In some cases, again, the germinating sprouts show differences, and those that would be a waste of time or garden space must come out. The plant develops, and again the weaklings or the awkward ones or the misinformed ones must be eliminated. So it goes on, selecting, first to see that your raw materials are the best possible, and then, when the time comes, to choose as between individuals with an eye single to the purpose with which the whole experiment was begun. It is when the time arrives for this selection for qualities sought in the plant or tree that almost anyone would like my job. For then 1,000 shades and variations appear. A flower gives perfume that that never had it before. Another shows a variegated color scheme. Another has drooping petals for straight or straight for drooping. Or a vegetable astoundingly exhibits a new quality or flavor, or some amazing trait never seen before by mortal eye. These unexpected variations I speak of are in addition to the ones for which I am looking and on which, especially in later years, I was able to plan fairly definitely. And if I'm working with a fruit, and usually with the vegetables too, I may not start selecting at all till the fruit or vegetable is ripe. In that case, there is quite a lot of fun and interest, not only for me, but for the whole family, because we go right into the kitchen or to the dining table with our products, and we preserve or cook or make jelly or soup or stew, and selection becomes a matter for palate and nose, or even for the stomach and the digestive processes, as well as one of the eye and touch and aesthetic measurement. It was in this instinct for selection that I was gifted. It was born in me, and I educated it and gave it experience, and have always kept myself attuned to it. I have particularly sensitive nerves. That accounts partly for my unusual success in selecting as between two apparently identical plants, or flowers, or trees, or fruits. There is certain music I cannot listen to without pain, and I am not making a joke there. What I mean is that some notes and vibrations in music hurt me physically, and I have once or twice been forced to leave a room or a hall where music was being played or sung, and beautifully too, because the strains hurt me. I have always been sensitive to odors, so that I could detect them, not pleasant or disagreeable, when they were so slight that no one about me was conscious of them. My sense of touch is almost as acute as that of Helen Keller, who visited me just a short time ago, and with whom I could converse easily, more easily than most, because we were so nearly equally sensitive. Probably there is more to it than merely this sensory response in me. It may be a sixth sense. It may be purely intuitive. But I know that even those who have worked with me longest and have been closest to me, learning my methods and watching me in the gardens, have been unable to duplicate what I have done as a mere matter of routine, and with no thought as to how I did it. Some of the men who have worked for me have developed into good, sound, original, and even clever and successful plant developers. But as far as I have been able to observe, they have not been able to even approach my own natural ability to choose between plants, and to choose not one from a dozen, or a few here and there, but at wholesale, thousands of plants in a day out of tens of thousands growing in my experimental gardens. Even close friends and observers have said what you, perhaps, are saying to yourself now. That is, that I was bound to be right part of the time, and that there is no way of telling how many poor selections I made through error, nor how many perfect ones I caused to be destroyed. My friends were wrong, as you are. I make some mistakes, of course, but considering the number of plants I have selected in the course of 60 years as a plant breeder, they are negligible. On the contrary, I will tell you a story. Out of many such that are available to show you how complete my gift is. From the first, it has been my practice to mark selected individual plants by tying a strip of old white cloth on. This means that they are this means that the that this means that that this means that that marked plant is sacred, and you would soon notice that the men working for me would give me one of the neckties, as we call them, a wide berth. Plants that I could see would add nothing to my experiments by any possibility came up at once, or else were marked by my marking a line in the bed with the toe of my shoe, so that the men could take them out later. This left, of the hundreds or thousands of plants concerned, a large number that were tolerated, not so much because they had individual merit, though they sometimes developed that, here and there, as because watching their progress might throw some light on the experiment. Now, when I had a very large project going on, a field or bed with thousands and thousands of varieties or individuals in it, I would have 2 or 3 of my helpers follow me, and I would simply drop the neckties on the superior plants or those suited to my purpose, and put a shoe mark against the worthless ones, about as rapidly as a man could walk along, and the men would do the tying and spade out and burn the condemned plants. I was engaged in selecting from some 35,000 plum seedlings one day when my friend, the late Judge S.F. Lieb of San Jose, drove in. I went on with my work, but I saw that he was concerned about the growing pile of young trees being heaped up to be burned, and sure enough, it wasn't long before he stopped me. "Burbank," he said, "I've the utmost confidence in you, and I would believe anything you told me about your work, but I can't think that you are right in uprooting all these beautiful seedlings and sending them off to be destroyed. It looks like a shameful waste to me." "Well, Judge," I said, "this selecting isn't being done by guesswork, though I suppose it looks like it. Why don't you take half a dozen of those condemned trees and plant them down on your Santa Clara Valley place, and find out for yourself whether I'm right or wrong?" He said he would like to make the test, and for good measure I insisted on his taking also 6 of the seedlings I had selected as the best varieties. So we dug the trees up carefully, packed them, and shipped them to his home. I saw him once or twice a year, at least, and sometimes oftener, and the test of the trees was mentioned occasionally, but it wasn't until the 5th year, when the trees had had a chance to develop and come into bearing, that he made his report. "Burbank," he said then, "if any one had told me 5 years ago that selection could be done by a man almost at a trot, I would have said that he was crazy. I've been an orchidist for years, and I think I know something about horticulture and plant development. But what you have shown to me beats anything I have ever heard of." Then he went on to admit that he had been wrong and that I had been right in every single case. He said that he had ordered his men to take out and burn all of the 6 trees I had condemned as seedlings. 5 years before, he said that he had ordered his men to take out and burn all of the trees I had condemned as seedlings 5 years before, but that every one of the 6 I had chosen had proved perfect trees with beautiful, luscious, well-developed fruit and plenty of it. He was very fond of telling that story on himself, and he did a great deal, as he had done before that incident, to help me with my work and to give me confidence in myself and give other people confidence in me. If you will stop a minute to consider, you will see that I had to be accurate in selecting, or I would have wasted half my time growing varieties and individuals that were useless to my experiments, or else I would have done what Judge Lieb thought I was doing, thrown away or destroyed thousands of plants with possibilities. No, the fact is that I have a gift for selection that I suppose very few men in the world have ever possessed in any line. It was a straight benefaction to me from my heredity, somewhere away back in environment. My work and my need for a selective faculty developed it, and education, experience and watchfulness and study perfected and polished it. But to it I owe a large measure of my success, because it made possible the conducting of an enormous list of separate experiments, most of them done on a very broad scale. Without it, I could not have worked with so many kinds of plants, nor done so many different things with so many different varieties and species. Hard work, application, study, love of the task, The desire to cover a wide range, and the ability to learn from nature and then to select accurately as between individuals of apparently identical character, these have been the basis of my achievement. These are the foundation stones of success in plant development and improvement. And it was these that have made it possible for me to give the world so many new creations in flowers and grains, fruits and vegetables, shrubs and trees and vines.